45 overs out of the 90 remained unbowled, has cheated the fans out of yet another half day's test cricket. I mean, they've only had 10 days cricket so far.
When you're, as a player, when you're there and the way that the decisions they're making, yes, there can be frustrations, but there will be some thinking behind it. And although some people think that the thinking isn't right.
Well, the thinking is about money. Cricket Australia, who have lost 25 odd million Aussie dollars, if you read some of the reports of revenue, have gone, okay, well, I've got an idea. Why don't we just make sure it goes to 5 days, recoup our losses? If it was an ODI or a T20, that game would have completed.
The directive is in T20 is you get out there and play.
It's not a great optic, though, is it?
You know, he comes through as a young lad coming over from Pakistan, the age of 5, and then working his way up through cricket in Sydney, and some of the the abuse he copped as a youngster growing up because the colour of his skin.
Players can use their social media platforms to promote businesses, sponsorships. But when players like Megan Rapinoe, Marcus Rashford, Lewis Hamilton, Novak Djokovic, when they use their platform and their voice to highlight causes that are true to them, they get shot down. Yet when they use that same platform to promote businesses, no one says anything. Jonesy, first show of 2026. It's going to be a great one today. We're going to chat Usman Khawaja, his retirement, and then what he said in the press conference afterwards. Ask if fans are being cheated after the day's incidents around the weather and the non-play at Sydney today. We know who our 200th subscriber is. We're going to tell that person who it is, and we need to conjure up a prize for them. I've got another game for you as well, which you'll be pleased about. I know you like games on this show. Plus, we're going to find out as 1P Wabbit was right, and other bits and pieces. So there you go. That's something to look forward to. Firstly, how was your New Year? What did you do?
Pretty quiet, to be honest. Not a lot. Just stayed in and then watched the BBC stuff. Watched Ronan Keating.
I did
fireworks. Yeah.
He's a showman, that man, isn't he?
Yeah, well, it's my sort of era. I remember, I remember driving around the country, and at that point, it was still CDs, Westlife CD.
Yeah, had a pile of them in the car.
Yeah,
you're driving around, trying to scramble around, trying to find something.
So that was good to listen to a few of those again, and that's generally the case on New Year's. That's the standard.
And something I found, I was sort of sussing out who is in his band and stuff, and I didn't realise that one of the backing singers was Shirley from Pepsi and Shirley. So there you go. That's
there you go. That's someone I've never heard of.
Oh, there you go. So I think they were Wham's backing singers, Pepsi and Shirley. So there you have it. Right. Anyway, apparently there's a bit of cricket to be discussed today. So let's start off with a section that I've creatively entitled Money Talks, because the incidents, if you like, it's probably a strong word, but what happened for half of the match today, by the way, at Sydney, 45 overs out of the 90 remained unbowled, has cheated the fans out of, yet another half day's test cricket. I mean, they've only had 8 days cricket so far, I think, or 10 days cricket so far, and now half a day in Sydney. Now, the umpires have taken the teams off because there was a bad light, threat of lightning and whatever, but the covers remained on. It was blue skies above. What do you make of this? Do you think that that the administrators are putting cash before cricket?
Listen, when weather gets into it, I totally understand the frustrations, because quite often as a player you have it as well, where I imagine the two batters were there looking, going, listen, this wicket's flat. We want to, we're both let's call it 80. We're both 80 not out. The ball's old. The Aussie bowlers are getting into their sort of third spell, so there is that level of frustration, and it works both ways. But you're so sort of governed by what the umpires and what the ground staff say to you, and and quite especially when something like lightning's about. They've got the rules in place for lightning, where as soon as you see it, that's it. You've got to automatically, they've got some rule where if it's within 30 seconds, as a kid, you would see it, or you would hear the thunder, and then you sort of count, waiting for the next sort of, they've got a rule in place of that within 30 seconds. So automatically you go off for that. So that starts it. But and I know as well in Sydney, they're not particularly happy that they've always got the fifth test, and so quite often it's a dead rubber. And so with that, they want to sort of play. But the other side of it is that that with Sydney as well is that they're having a real sort of issue. They want to move it ahead, and they're also, the rain plays such a part now. I think I heard a stat as well that there's more days lost to rain in Sydney than there is in Manchester. Would you believe it? So there's all this sort of stuff kicking around. So I get it. I've got a good friend out there, Gary Lazar, and his wife Jane. They're in a once in a lifetime trip. I know we've said this a few, but he was desperately hoping. He was so excited to be there for day one. And the one thing he said on his message to me was, "I hope the rain stays away." So it's a real shame for him. But I sort of get, you sort of, I understand what you're saying, but when you, as a player, when you're there and the way that the decisions they're making, yes, there can be frustrations, but there will be some thinking behind it. And although some people think that the thinking isn't right.
Well, the thinking is about money. Ultimately, after the debacle at the MCG with that pitch, the curator here has produced an absolute flat one. And then Cricket Australia, who have lost 25 odd million Aussie dollars, if you read some of the reports of revenue because of what's happened over the other tests, they've gone, okay, well, I've got an idea. Why don't we just make sure it goes to 5 days, recoup our losses? And the best way of doing that is to, even though it's blue skies ahead, and we could have extended play, whatever. Yes, I know there's broadcaster issues and whatever. But ultimately, if you put the fans first, you can extend the play, you can do something and put the spectacle back on again, because people have, like your friend and other people, you told a story about someone, who'd saved up for 20 years and to go to Perth and didn't see anything. They're being cheated by cricket's inability to be flexible. And if it was an ODI or a T20, that game would have completed. So why is it Test cricket has been treated like this?
Yeah, and that's always the thing, isn't it? I've played in T20s where you have gone out there and the conditions haven't really been fit, but the directive is, and that's the difference. The directive is in T20 is you get out there and play, because it's a short window. And the one thing with Test cricket, and you're then going to throw back at me, we'll just change the ball, is that you go out there in damp conditions and the ball, whose favour it goes in terms of, is it more in the bowling favour than batting favour? When it's wet, it quite often skews to be more in favour of the batting, because bowling with a wet ball, the ball becomes soft, and especially on a flat wicket like that. So that's all the thinking that's going on. And I do get it, because if it was someone who hadn't seen the game before and you took them to it and it's bright sunshine and there's nothing, they'd be like, what on earth's going on? Why aren't they playing? But it's, I also, chuckle at your cynical bit that, Cricket Australia just going, well, we need to recoup some, at that point, it's nothing to do with Cricket Australia. Then, the broadcasters often in T20 do play a bit of an impact. I remember with playing for Kent that you knew that if your match was on Sky, that you would have to get out there and play in conditions that you didn't ordinarily play in. And so there's that level of it. But yeah, it's a shame, but there is a lot of consideration that goes into it, and especially when you've got lightning about, sort of, I remember a warm-up match I had in, you always go on about how old I am and how I play, but when I was playing, we didn't really have this lightning rule. You just, you saw it, and I remember sort of going, tour match in Potchefstroom in South Africa, exactly that, some lightning, and Ashley Giles, he was absolutely terrified of it, and he ran off to change his cricket spikes because he was worried, and he came back on in his trainers and was fielding down at deep fine leg in his trainers, and he was literally lying on the floor because he was so petrified that the lightning was going to come down, and because he had his cricket spikes on, was going to zap him. So that's the way we dealt with it, all those years ago. Whereas now, you've got this half-hour rule and stuff. So I don't know. There's not a simple fix, although we'd all like it to be. But there's a lot of factors. Even the ground staff. The ground staff will tell you how long it's going to take the covers off.
Well, they were nowhere to be seen because they had nothing to do.
Well, there's quite often that where you think, right, let's do it, and then where's the ground staff? Oh, it's 3:00. It's our cup of tea time.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come out. Oh, okay, we'll come out when we're ready. And by the way, we've looked at our radar, and there's potential of another rainstorm coming in 15 minutes. So I think we shouldn't really do anything for that. So that's the frustration bit. Is cricket does do stuff on potential. Maybe this is sort of scheduled to happen. So there's some decision stuff like that. It's not as cut and dry as we'd probably want it to be.
It's not a great optic, though, is it? Blue skies ahead, empty stand, and the covers on. But that's not something that we're going to be able to solve. So there's a flat track, very flat track at Sydney, as shown by the way that Joe Root and Harry Brook batted. England went from 57 for 3 to 211 for 3 at what turned out to be close of play, just shy of tea. All right, the series has gone, but England actually batted well in parts. But before we get to that bit, again, the frailties of the top order are shown. 3 poor shots by Duckett, Crawley, and now Jacob Bethel. Are we just finding now with the top 2? Let's leave Bethel out of it for the minute. Are we finding with the top 2 now that they're just not learning and they keep making the same mistakes?
Well, I think Duckett's been found out a little bit on this tour, with his dismissals. And this one, he was a defensive, but it was a slightly away from him defensive push.
It was about fifth stump, I think.
Yeah, and exactly. And so the Aussies have worked that out. I think they bowled fairly. He got off to a bit of a flyer and got his sort of 20-odd runs. But that was from poor bowling. They bowled quite straight to a lot of stuff on leg stump and then the full pitch stuff. And that's a left-hander. That's what left-handers try to do to you. They try and, they want you to bowl quite straight and give you width. But the Aussies, this series, they've got more balls in the right place. And where Duckett, renowned for wanting to hit the ball, and I think the little bit of extra bounce that Australia offers has found him out compared to in England and other places around the world. And so balls that in England where he's hitting and he's maybe, or slicing away, he's got edges. And so that's something he is going to have to look at if he's still in the team when they go back there. I don't think he'll have as much of an issue, but around the other places in the world. But bowlers will have seen this, and bowlers will now getting a good plan to him. Crawley it is frustrating. I was looking at last night's one, and incidentally, when I saw those 3 wickets, that's when I went to bed. I said, I'm not watching this again. But so it was quite good to wake up to see that we hadn't lost another wicket, and our 2 best batters, and that's the key. They are our 2 best batters. Brook hasn't shown it this series, but he showed it in the way he batted, and he was perfectly set up for Root. But Crawley was just a whip across.
Well, yeah.
He's got a very wide stance now, and it was a ball that you're just crying it as an opening batter. That needs to be played with a straighter bat. Again, I've mentioned angles quite a lot in this series. It was a slight angle in, and he's met it with another angle, trying to whip it through square leg. And so you just see a flashing blade go across the ball, and that's not going to give you the best opportunity. You want to see your opening bat straight bat that down through mid on. Or even it doesn't have to be a scorer. Yeah, and that's what Joe Root did. That was very obvious to me when Joe Root came in. He held his shot, he held that bat face, and he hit the ball back down to mid on. Whereas Crawley almost he felt comfortable. That ball, they'll whip across. It's just not going to be successful. And we've been saying this now, but we're 60 Test matches into it. So that's the frustrating thing with Zach, is that that's the sort of dismissal on a flat wicket. He's got an opportunity. He's come off some runs. He's shown what we want from him, but that whip across was just going back to, come on, please.
Yeah, straight back down. What he seems to have done also is, by putting away that big booming drive, got trying to work out other shots that he can play, maybe that have exposed his technique. Anyway, let's see how England push on tomorrow on a pitch that, and we've now, don't think anyone's spoken about pitches as much as in this series. Millimeters of grass cut off and all sorts of stuff. The pitch was described as a green mamba 24 hours before the start. I think that maybe sort of the powers that be within the two sides have looked at it and gone, right, we don't need spinners on this. We need to pack it out with seamers, which of course is rare in Sydney. For there not to be Todd Murphy playing for Australia, or Shoaib Bashir, poor lad, the unfortunate tourist, or the accidental tourist, not playing on a pitch that he would have earmarked as the one he was going to play at.
I think that was interesting. The two aspects before it in the lead, you had a very frustrated Steve Smith. Steve Smith wants to play a spinner, but his words were, we've been backed into a corner by this wicket, by having that green tinge. And for England are going happy days, because it actually helps us out a bit here. Because if this the wicket isn't okay, it's got that green, we're just going to bring Potts in. As the whole Shoaib Bashir sort of scenario that's been plaguing us this whole series. Well, that's for us. They're like, for once, they're going, we've got to get out of jail free card here. You've got Steve Smith, who, is a very astute man with cricket. He knows what Sydney's like. It has spun in Shield matches leading up to it. So he's frustrated as anything, because he's going, well, this just looks like we've got to play the seamers and spin won't come into it. So, for me, it was quite interesting, the contrast between, you didn't hear anything from England, and you heard Steve Smith being quite vocal with how frustrated he's been with these wickets.
When T20 first came in, it was one of the naysayers would say that it was the death of spin bowling, and actually spin bowling's played a major part in T20 cricket in terms of its wicket-taking capabilities, not just as a defensive tactic. Yet in Test cricket, it seems to have died away. Where are the good spinners? Where are the Shane Warnes and the Muraleys of the world who can actually take you wickets? Because they don't seem to exist. And if there was one on either side, you would assume they would have played.
Yeah, and it does come back to a bit of the way batsmen approach spin now. If I think of the young batters I watch, they the old-fashioned step and fetch. That's a little bit the way that they look at spin. Spin is just there to be attacked. And so, as a youngster, if you're just seeing batters come charging at you and just trying to whack you everywhere, it's pretty disheartening. You have to be pretty resilient to keep going at that art. I played a lot with James Treadwell, and he would just sort of just while away and he'd shake his head. But he hated bowling in the way that batters played him in the nets, because batters would just come slogging him in the nets. And he would, he was like, well, this isn't the way they play in a match. But it's almost gone to the way, well, this is the way they play in a match now. So as a young spin bowler, and if we focus on England as well, you spend so much of your time in indoor schools. You look at the weather now, it's -3 out there, it's flipping freezing. All these youngsters around the country are going to go back into indoor wickets, which don't turn, flat tracks, and batters just playing all the shots in the world. So you're going to think, why am I going to keep doing this? So that's the element of it. And then you've got county cricket, which, the wickets aren't really promoting any spin. And I don't want Bunsen's, but it's resilience with the bowler. You have to be pretty strong-willed now to be a spinner, because you've got batsmen with shots all round the ground, trying to hit you out of the ground. So for you, you've got to be perversely enjoy that challenge, and that's where those names you mentioned, those guys absolutely loved it. And I think players of the past, spin bowlers of the past, love that challenge. Where the youngsters now don't particularly like being whacked everywhere, and also they're then being told, okay, you've got to bowl quick at the hip. because in one-day cricket, it's really hard to be hit that way. But so fire it in, bowl quick, not worried about masses of turn. You've just got to not go for runs. And so they're learning. That's the way that they've been told how to bowl. And it's a very defensive way of bowling. It's not about flight it up there. You may go for a few boundaries, but you stick with it. It's like, no, you've just got to fire it in at the hip. Don't let them hit you. And so there's that as well that they're hearing all the way through their childhood cricket. And so someone to throw it up in the air, flight, goal, turn, drift, everything like that, it's almost been coached out of them.
Right. And then you end up with county cricket producing, the archetypal English dibbly-dobbly seamer with the keeper stood up, because that's what county teams will need to win a match in the domestic conditions. And again, that's counterintuitive to creating bowlers who can win test matches, especially overseas. What are your views on county cricket? Is it, we don't want to go into a whole fit for purpose sort of lengthy discussion, but do they need to be more aligned with the Barcelona way, for example, right? Every Barcelona football team plays the same way. Should England or the ECB, Rob Key, be able to say to counties, I want you to try and play in this way because we need to produce more X, Y, and Z?
And I think they're trying to, with what the value they're promoting that they think is important to get selected for England. The style of bowler we're looking at. That will be filtering down to young bowlers to think, okay, to play for England, I need to be bowling quick. And so that side of it, and then the batters, we need to be able to play our shots. But what's coming out of it now is the balance of it. And the other thing is there's not that many fast bowlers around. If I look at my own county here with Kent, the number of homegrown produced fast bowlers, you could count on one hand, even less than that. And so bowling fast is hard work. And so generally it's players from the north that bowl fast because they're willing to go through that grit, go through that pain to do it. And that's a big sort of issue as well, is the number of fast bowlers around the country and it's especially a case here in Kent. It's a real issue. And so with county cricket, they've got it. That's why then you have those dobbers, those little sort of 75 a mile, because those guys can bowl you a whole season of overs worth, and so you can throw the ball to them. And incidentally, I haven't enjoyed watching this test cricket. I've enjoyed watching Carey, but when I flick on the TV and I see a wicketkeeper in a test match stood up to the seamers, and it's almost become a thing I don't enjoy it because I know, well, that's a wicket that's flat. That's a wicket that's dead. That's not going to offer anything. The one thing is we have wickets like that in England, but then you throw the Duke's ball into it, and the Duke's ball with the seam nibbles around, and that's why, the failed experiment of the Kookaburra ball in county cricket, because Rob Key wanted English bowlers to learn how to bowl with a Kookaburra ball when it's flat. How do you produce wickets? And that's where pace comes into it. But the balance was way off. The amount of runs that were scored in England was just crazy. So I understood his thinking, and they are always thinking about how to improve county cricket. It's just difficult when you've got 18 counties trying to make a decision. The chairman and CEOs of these 18 counties with 18 different views. They're trying to satisfy members as well. So it's, to go to them and go, what? Actually, we're only going to play 12 first-class matches. You're not going to play everyone. Traditionally, used to be, it's split into two. You're going to play there's 9 of you in each. You're each going to play each other 16 matches. So those sort of all those considerations are happening. But I think we're so congested in the summer. But it's almost too. Is it too far gone to change county cricket? And are we just putting up? You throw the 100 into it as well. The T20's become a lesser competition because the 100's going on. There's stars. It's almost like a feeder league now. 50 over. Got the Lord's spectacle that's where I finished my cricket. That's no longer. It's played Nottingham or somewhere like that at the back end of September. So it is needed to be looked at, and it's sort of neat because supplying cricketers for England is obviously they're finding it hard to see it, because you just got to look at this squad. You know, and then we've got the Lions behind it, and they're reluctant to pick many of the Lions. So it's something that always is being looked at, but it's such a difficult answer to get to. You know, I don't really have a magical answer for you.
No, and I don't think anybody has. But England will look to push on in the morning, 211 for 3 when the play finished. They're going to start half an hour earlier, I think, for the next 3 days anyway. So let's see what England can do and build a.
There you go.
Build a big
you get a bit of extra
and,
cricket, Sanjay.
There you go. Yeah, but not if you bought a day one ticket. Yeah, England will look to push on and build a score. Let's hope that they can get something out of this Test match. If the Ashes have gone, does 3-2 or 4-1 make any difference?
No. Ronald McDonald, the Australian coach, you know, basically said that he's not worried about, you know, he
playing for Test Championship points.
He was playing for points. We've done a job. That's why they've rested Cummins. England might be happy with it to be able to go, you know, a 3-2. You know, we showed what could have been, but it also is that, it is what could have been, you know, with the way it's gone. If you hadn't have been Muppets in Perth and thrown away that, you know, been 100-run lead for one, because we're also Ben Stokes has won 4 tosses.
Yeah, tosses.
So he's had the choice to do it, and England will look back. If it's 3-2, England will look back and kick themselves even more. They're probably better off being beaten 4-1. To be honest.
Yeah, it's a truer reflection. Well, then said that England had a lot of choices. They're in the games they're in the games a lot of the time, but the crucial moments and stuff they missed, and they didn't play situations very well. Right, let's move on to what should we do now? Let's do your favourite part. But before that, obviously, thank you very much for everyone who has subscribed so far to Close of Play on Spotify or Apple, and also at Sanjay Murthy Cricket here on YouTube. We said before that our 200th subscriber we would announce, and they would get something, and that person is Yaz Modi. So Yaz, thank you very much for being that person. If you can just send us a comment on on this show, and we will get something over to you. So, you know, point sprint prizes. So if you want to be let's say the 300th subscriber wins something, then get subscribing now, and we'll get something over to you. Questions also, Jonesy. We're going to do your true or false in a minute, but we're going to record a Q&A program next week on Monday. We'll get it out on Tuesday. We've got hundreds and hundreds of comments across the shows that we've done, so we'll pull out the best of those, and we'll go through those in the show. We should do the best of true or false, actually, because it's close. You've enjoyed this feature tremendously. You'll be glad to know it's coming to an end. So let's do day 1 of the 5th test, and I'm going to take you back to 1948. I'm going to read you a statement now, and I want you to tell me whether this is true or false. The great Sir Don Bradman came to the crease for his final Test appearance. The crowd applauded, and everyone on the pitch and off it gave him 3 cheers. But he was bowled second ball. So therefore, is it true or false that the Don made his final appearance on day 1 of the 5th Ashes Test at the Oval in 1948? Geraint Jones.
Oh, yeah, I knew it was the Oval. I was hoping you were going to try and throw that one in. I know that he did get a duck. My brain was thinking, was it second or was it third ball? Now I was trying to think. I've definitely read that somewhere, but couldn't remember. So I sort of think, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Day 1. That's where it comes across as an odd one. Did they score? Someone else must have got some runs. He probably, if that's the case, if they've got a big total and the Don's got 0, and then they've rolled England twice, you'd be kicking yourself, wouldn't you? you'd be frustrated if it was a. Oh, jeez. Right. Okay. Yeah. It's. Let's make you happy. Let's go true.
Geraint Jones 9, Sanjay Murthy 7. It was true. He came in late in the day, like 6 o'clock or something, because they had got some runs, and I guess night watchmen's and whatever didn't happen in those days. So yeah, he came in, and the rest is history, as they say. So there you go. Well done. 9-4. You've only got 9-7. Sorry, you've only got 4 left. Hopefully, well, the way that this test has been manufactured, there's definitely going to be 4 more days. But yeah,
but
see if I can pull it back.
you at least gave me something to think about, which I could sort of relate to, because there's elements there I could actually do some thinking, and your random ones about whatever you've brought, they're so bad I've forgotten them already.
Well,
So at least I could think about and make.
Are you suggesting that an England batter having to leave the crease halfway through because he was the local magistrate didn't make you think?
No, made me think it made me think this is ridiculous.
Right, Usman Khawaja in our Cop That feature. So Uzi's retired, or he will retire after the end of this test, which is his 88th. If he gets 30 more runs, he'll go to 14th on the list of Australian batters above his mate Mike Hussey, and next to the man we've just been talking about, Sir Don Bradman. He made his debut 2011. It was a career of 2 halves, really. The back-to-back hundreds he got in the second dig really sort of cemented his place, and he moved up the order to open. He's got 6,200 test runs plus whatever he scores here, 1,600s, 2850s, averaging 43.39. For first and foremost, I think we need to congratulate Uzi on a great career.
Yeah, that's decent, isn't it? 88 tests, averaging over 40, 1,600s. So yeah, he can, and I'm sure he will do. Look back on a career of pride, to get back-to-back hundreds in a test match. That's pretty special as well. He was renowned for his ability to play spin. He would lead the batters when they went overseas tours. It was, so the hundreds he got overseas are very special. So yeah, and the good thing, he's going to keep going. He's going to keep playing for Queensland. So he's going to keep playing on. And so it's in terms of his cricket and his Test cricket and his international cricket, he can very much be. Whenever this Test match is done, he can walk off with his head high, chest out, to say, Uzi, well done. You've done this pretty well.
What he'll continue to do also, I assume, is have a voice of some of the issues that he said in that press conference he gave for his retirement speech. We're not going to turn this into a political show in any way, shape or form, but he spoke very passionately about how Australia, and especially the Australian media, has treated him different to others. And on social media there was the normal backlash. Some people supported him, a lot of people accused him of playing the race card, but his voice going forward should be influential, you would think, in Australian and world cricket with regards to sort of more representation within the game.
It's a good question. Let's just strip it all the way back. I've always felt a little bit different, even to now. I'm a colour cricketer, and the Australian cricket team is, in my opinion, the greatest national. That's our best team. It's our national. It's our pride and joy. But I've also felt very different in a lot of respects. Different by the way I've been treated. Different for how things have happened. And I'll just go back. Something that's been on my mind probably from the start of the series that I noticed, which I thought I'd kind of gone past before, and it was when I did my back. I hurt my back. I had back spasms, and it was something I couldn't control. And the way, I don't want to say you specifically, but the way the media and the past players came out and attacked me, I mean, I could have copped it for 2 days, but I copped it for about 5 days straight. And it wasn't even about my performances. It was about something very personal. It was about my preparation. And the way everyone came at me about my preparation, and it was quite personal in terms of, things like, he's not committed to the team. You know, he was only worried about himself. He played this golf comp the day before. He's selfish. You know, he doesn't train hard enough. He didn't train the day before the game. He's lazy. These are the same stereotypes, the racial stereotypes I've grown up with my whole life.
Yeah, he had to listen to that pre-test match interview, and he spoke of his cricketing journey, the way he's come through as a young lad coming over from Pakistan at the age of 5, and then working his way up through cricket in Sydney, and some of the the abuse he copped as a youngster growing up because the colour of his skin, and so he's come all the way through to scoring international hundreds for Australia. Has always been very proud to play for Australia, and so I would not surprise me if Cricket Australia reach out to him, whether or not he's ready for that, but in just to try and help them with the diversity of the game, and it's something we've seen in England being addressed, really heavily over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, and so it's when you look at the makeup of the Australian team, you could sort of look at it and think, okay, Uzi's got a bit of a point here. How can we improve it? How can we give the opportunities? And that's for me what listening to what Usman was talking about is. It's about opportunities, and that's what he wants for young Aussies around the country.
Yeah.
How can I use what my experience to improve opportunities? And that's what we want to see, and that's where I think Cricket Australia can speak to him and sort of reach out to him and see if there's the right sort of programs happening Australia-wide to give everyone opportunities to play for their country.
Yeah, and I think that message maybe got a bit overshadowed when the emotion took over what he was trying to say. But I think you're right. I mean, that is what the positive that can come out of all of this is more chances for people, who are who aren't stereotypical Australians, if you like. So I did a bit of research. 7 people have represented Australia this century who aren't white, effectively, right? Indigenous or Pakistani origin, as far as Usman's concerned, and Sandhu's Indian origin. So there's 7 people. And Australia's 80% white, yet the Australian cricket team is 95% white. So there's obviously over-index. So, we in this country have ACE and we have SACA and, external organisations, if you like, that have been started because even though the ECB and Cricket Scotland had to deal with issues within the game, the governing body isn't always, I don't think, the best entity to deal with these issues. And you maybe Uzi going into commentary and going into the media is going to be the best way of him being able to address the issues that he's rightly highlighted. When you were growing up in Australia, did you see anything like this at all when you were playing?
Not that I can recall. I can probably, apart from, like you said, it was sort of, if I think back now to my teams, they were majority of white players. And so that side of it. But I think the other thing which Australia need to look at, which I know that over here in England, is the cost of playing now. Opportunity can be limited by cost and by how expensive it is. And when you look at how much cricket bats are, I know Michael Vaughan was for a while they're looking into sort of sets of pads, bats, and what have you that were reasonably priced because the cost of cricket equipment is exorbitant. You're talking. Yeah, £500 for a bat. I know there's some manufacturers who put them out $1,000. And so if you think that to Australia as well, so that for me is quite an issue with the cost of the game. How can that's where I know that Cricket Australia has lost a lot of money in this series, and that may have a knock-on effect to what opportunities they can provide to youngsters but. That's the thing, is that how can we reduce the cost of equipment in this game to give that opportunity for people who can't afford it, because they'll just walk away. Whereas, if you're buying a pair of footy boots compared to a whole set of cricket equipment, helmets for one, the over here in England, the testing now that helmets have to go to means that these cost of helmets is through the roof. You can't, you no longer can you wear just a cheap helmet. It has to go. So there's all those little bits at play as well. And so, yeah, Uzi now going, he says he's going to go into commentary. He must have something lined up. And no doubt he will be used, and he will, it'll give him that voice. And maybe going in, I think it'd be some good documentaries may come out of it. Uzi may go into certain areas of Australia and do that, show the research, because that's at the moment where we're, and not to be negative, but we're taking his word for it, and whereas potentially if you put it into a platform, put it onto, something you can watch on YouTube or wherever, show the people of Australia, this is a reality, this is what we're up against, then it's actually opened some eyes, and then you get some corporate backing and lead the way to change.
Yeah, because the normal stuff, on social media, he's ungrateful, came over here to Australia, all these opportunities, blah, 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 blah. But players, whilst they are playing, it's very difficult for them to sort of say anything that they really feel from there, because they're essentially contracted by a quasi-government entity. But players can use their social media platforms to promote businesses, sponsorships. But when players like Usman Khawaja, like, Megan Rapinoe in American football, soccer in the States, equal pay and stuff, Marcus Rashford with, the child poverty and food, Lewis Hamilton, Novak Djokovic with the vaccination stuff, when they use their platform and their voice to highlight causes that are true to them, they get shot down. Yet when they use that same platform to promote businesses, no one says anything. It seems double standards to me.
Yeah, and I suppose he's effectively employed, isn't he?
Yeah.
And so what he's doing is he's endorsing his employment, and so what he can't do is go against that. Even when he wore the black armband earlier in the year, he got told off for it because it was quite a political statement. So yeah, it's that balance, isn't it? Where when you're playing at that level, you are bound by your employers, and that contractually with your endorsements, because he's going to have companies come to him, and you've seen over the years where players have, not just in cricket but all sports have said something controversial and ended up losing all their sponsorship, losing their livelihood. And so there's always that balance when you're playing. It's such a tricky line to tread, because you are very aware of what you're saying and who's essentially paying you, and you don't want to go against, you don't want to cause that ripple which potentially might lose a massive sponsorship deal for Cricket Australia. So you say something against it, and all of a sudden that sponsor pulls out. When you've retired, when you're out of it, that's where the shackles are released a bit, because you aren't guided by those principles. And that's why you quite often see that people towards the end, like we have done with Usman, and it's understandable, because when you're in the middle of it, you don't want to upset anyone, but at the back end of it, you're not that you're happy to upset people, but you almost that you've just got an opportunity to actually, there's been a lot on my mind, and this is my chance to say it, because he won't have a full-time job, I don't imagine. He'll be he'll just be brought in for test matches and stuff like that, so he's essentially not employed to anyone other than himself, and so he's just risking himself being further employed. And so yeah, that's where it comes down to. He's not answering to anyone other than himself, and he's giving
exactly.
He's going to be happier to speak out.
Yeah, I think ultimately the more players, athletes, actors, whoever use their voice to make the world better can only be a good thing, I guess. Right, let's lighten the mood for the last few minutes, mate. Your biggest fan, who we now know is called Tom. He goes by 1P Wabbit on on YouTube. You asked him a question last show, I think, or the show before maybe, around who your first test wicket was. Let's see what he said.
You asked me about your first test dismissal, which felt like a bit of a trick question, because you didn't take a catch against the West Indies in the last test of that series when Lara got his 400. I don't think. So it was the South Africa series, and I think it was Jack Rudolph short of a century.
So, Jonesy, you've just seen Tom say hello to you and tell you how much he spent on cricket gloves every time Puma gave you a new set to wear. But he did mention something I didn't know, actually, that you kept in that Test match where Lara scored 400. Don't suppose any of it was your fault, but he did say that Jacques Rudolph was your first ever Test wicket. It's a true or false? What's the answer?
Wumpy. Tom, considering how much of a fanboy he came across as, and I appreciate all that stuff, sort of buying all the Puma gears and yes, that Test match with Lara was my first one. I nearly got a world record apart from Trescothick sticking one down leg side to go for buys, but unfortunately, it's not Jacques Rudolph. Yeah, it's Nathan Astle at Lord's in early 2004. So I'm not sure. I didn't play South Africa until the following sort of the end of 2004. So my biggest fan has unfortunately proved
Has let you
himself
down.
not to be the biggest fan.
He could be on your true or false side, Right. So what we're going to do also, final thing then, I'm going to give you, I think you would have faced all of these bowlers. There's one in here that you would have kept to as well in Andrew Flintoff. And I want you to rank these fast bowlers in order. I'm going to give them to you randomly, but one's going to be obviously the one that was the best and 10's the one that's going to be last, but I'm going to give them to you in any random order. You ready? 1.
10.
So,
how am I going to remember 10?
Well, I'm going to tell you the 10. You've just got to give me a number.
Okay.
Show backed up.
Well, I haven't heard anyone else yet.
Well, that's the whole point of the game.
Right.
If I gave you all 10 of them, you'd be able to do it easily, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Showy Bakhtar. He's not 1 because I'm going to hope that you throw in McGrath or someone like that. But he's high. I don't know if I've said the story of him coming round the wicket to me in Pakistan, trying to just break me as I was batting out for the draw. That wasn't a pleasant experience. So that elevates him. And I actually got out to a shocking dismissal. Rudy Kurtzen, gave me out off Shoaib LBW when half my bat was left in the ball inside edge, and so he's up there. Let's stick him at. Let's go 3.
Brett Lee.
And a lot of people say this. I didn't mind facing Brett Lee because he had such a beautiful, pure action. He was quick as fire, but it was nice to see, and actually going back to, one of my favourite shots. Actually, this is one I opened the batting in England's first ever T20 down at Hampshire.
And did you?
Brett Lee was steaming in, and I hit a ball back at him quicker than he bowled it and nearly took his head off. So that was, that was sort of quite pleased. And also I played against Brett Lee when I was young in Australia. So all that fear factor was sort of gone a bit. I'm going to put Brett Lee. He still got me out plenty. Don't worry about that.
Yeah,
but I'm going to rate him a little bit lower. It's harsh because I like him. He's a good man. I'll stick him in the middle of the pack, 5.
Sean Pollock.
Yeah, obviously, again, I remember hitting him for a big 6 in Durban in a one-day match. So this is the thing. He says we only remember the good stuff. But what a bowler! He was special. He played in a Test match. Maybe that's where Tom was thinking in one of those ones with him and Jacques Rudolph coming to get me out. What am I missing? I'll put him in. What have I said there for Brett Lee? 5.
5, yeah. Shoaib Akhtar 3.
Shoaib 3.
5.
Are any of these spinners? Are these all fast bowlers?
They're all quicks.
All quicks.
Yeah. Rank these
who's
fast bowlers in
left?
order.
Yeah. Oh man, you're leaving me some. I'm backing myself in a corner. I'm a bit like Steve Smith and picking a spinner. Let's go Pollock at 6 then.
Shane Bond.
I don't know if I ever faced him.
Quick. Oh, didn't you?
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
So if I'm thinking about this personally, obviously did he play in that?
You playing that?
I don't
when
remember
you took
him
Nathan Hassel
playing
that series. You must have done. Who was in that
because
side?
No, I don't think so. He came off. Yeah, a little bit after.
Did he?
Little bit after.
You can go into your co-pilot.
He didn't. I had the likes of Chris Martin. No, I was Chris Martin. I remember facing him. Stuff like that. So I haven't faced him, but it's rough. So I've got to stick him down the bottom because I've got no reference. 10.
Okay, Zahir Khan.
Same.
You can't have 2 10s.
Don't remember. This is where where my memory fails me. This is your Zahir Khan.
Did you face him or not?
Again, I think you've given me too much credit for when I played.
Let's go with.
I don't remember it.
Okay, let's. Did you face Lasith Malinga?
Stick him at 9.
Okay, fine. Malinga, did you face him?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I played with Malinga, so yes, and I did face him because you had to watch. He was tough to keep to as well as play because he played for Kent, and all the chat was when you were facing him as a batter. You looked at the middle of the umpire's chest for the release point, which is completely alien to everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So usually you're looking up in that area, up above the. So that's where you were focused on. That was your release point. And so as a keeper, it's right in the middle of everything. So you had to. So he was, and then he had the reverse swing. So his skills were hugely high. But what did I put Pollock at?
Pollock was at 6. So you've got 1, 2, 4.
Yeah. Again.
7 and 8.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't mind facing Malinga. I'm leaving someone horrible to go in at 8. I'll stick Malinga at I'll stick him at 8 because my thinking is he was a white ball genius. Not as difficult red.
Jason Gillespie. You got 1, 2, 4, and 7 left.
Is he? Oh well. After he sledged me at the start of this, I'm ashamed. Is there an 11?
So you're a Disney 7, are you?
Again, yeah.
7. Wow. I'm just I'll WhatsApp him in a minute and tell him that's what you've done. See what him and Pitch say on their podcast this time round. 1, 2, and 4 left. Who should we go with next? Let's go with Dale Steyn. 1, 2, or 4.
Your internet went there, mate. So you'll have to repeat what you said there. I missed all
Dale Steyn. 1, 2, or 4. Dale Steyn. This feature's falling over quite nicely at this point.
We've got Sunday morning technical issues.
Correct. Technology is failing.
Let's have a look.
Did you hear what I said?
And we haven't pre-done this, but I think you might have. I ignored the message, but I think you sent these to me, didn't you?
Yeah, but can you hear?
Where's McGrath? McGrath's up there.
Anything happening at this end or that end? Can you hear me at all?
I only hear you when you say, "Can you hear me?" The rest of it.
Oh.
So it's making absolute terrible.
You're just basically ignoring me, aren't you? I said Dale Steyn.
I'm trying to think on the spot here, and it's not working. So who else? Okay, if I'm thinking fast bowlers I've faced, I'm going to put McGrath for me is 1.
Okay. McGrath 1.
Yeah, he's it.
Fred
Freddie
and
2.
Steyn were the other two.
I used to face him a lot in the nets. He absolutely terrified me.
And Steyn's 4, therefore.
Who?
Dale Steyn.
Yeah, whoever you said then.
Yeah. I wonder why it's not working. It's very weird. But anyway, given the fact
have we done that? Because that's gone terribly.
Yeah, it's gone really badly, as is our internet. So I'm not entirely sure why Jonesy can't hear a word I'm saying. So I can just basically swear about him and just tell everyone in the world what he's really like off camera. But I'm not going to do that.
Mate,
thank you everyone for listening. And we shall join you tomorrow for a review of the second day of the 5th test at Sydney, where hopefully we'll get a full day's play-in. Thank you for all of your support for the work that we do here at Close of Play. But to help us, if you could subscribe to Close of Play on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and also at Sanjay Murthy Cricket on YouTube, it'll help us. We can get more content out there, get more guests, and keep bringing you our, let's hope, unique views on the game that we all love. Thank you very much.